I'm Tewolde, and this is Making the Case. Jurors heard some of the most disturbing testimony yet as the prosecution wrapped up its case against R. Kelly in federal court today. Another accuser described the shame she felt over her sexual relationship with Kelly, a relationship she says he described as, quote, paying her dues. BNC's Dre Clark has today's developments from Kelly's racketeering and sex trafficking trial in Brooklyn.
Angela, the accuser who testified, was very clear in her recollections and very confident in her statements, saying that R. Kelly knew she was a minor, but he still wanted to have sex with her repeatedly.
Angela told the jury she was 15 years old, in high school, and wanted to be in a girl singing group produced by the great R. Kelly. That never happened, but what did quickly develop was a sexual relationship with Kelly. Angela said the first time she had sex with Kelly was at his home, and there were 2 other girls in the room. She said Kelly had sexual contact with all of them. Their sexual encounters continued, she testified, at Kelly's studio, his home, and on the road. Angela became a backup dancer for Kelly at just 16 years old. She said Kelly told her having sex with him is part of paying her dues. Then in 1992, Angela says she met the late R&B singer Aaliyah. She was told Aaliyah was the next hottest wave out of Detroit. She remembers it well because it was Aaliyah's 12th birthday. She then testified at some point between 1992 and 93, while they were on tour with Kelly, she walked in on Kelly giving Aaliyah oral sex on a couch. Angela said Aaliyah hadn't turned 13 yet. She recalled turning around right away and telling the other girls, "Don't go in the room." Angela stopped dancing for Kelly in the mid-90s. She said she never wanted to tell anyone what she did with Kelly sexually because she was ashamed. But she did appear in the documentary Surviving R. Kelly, talking about her experience. Angela said from day one, she was always told, whatever you do, protect Robert.
Also testifying, Diana. She worked as R. Kelly's assistant for 15 years. She said she ended their working relationship in 2018 because she could not see eye to eye with R. Kelly's new management. She told the jury that sometimes R. Kelly would get upset and he would yell, but she never witnessed him abusing any of his girlfriends. And she also said although she did quit several times while working for R. Kelly, she always went back because she felt like the people around R. Kelly, he couldn't trust them. She also says R. Kelly could not read or write. He had no information about his bank accounts, and he didn't even know his social security number. In New York, I'm Dre Clark for Making the Case.
Today's testimony was disturbing, and much of it could be pivotal for the prosecution. Here to talk with me about today's developments is veteran prosecutor and BNC's legal contributor, Paul Henderson. Okay, Paul. So this witness, Angela, she testified she was sexually abused by R. Kelly beginning at the age of 15, says she saw him performing a sexual act with the late singer Aaliyah when she was only about 13 or 14. Now, what do you think the emotional impact of that testimony will be on the jury?
I think it will be significant because a lot of people probably know who Aaliyah is. And I think it will make them very uncomfortable if they are believing the testimony of this witness that R. Kelly was engaged in sexual activity with her when she was as young as she was reported from the testimony. That's got to be powerful testimony to hear while you're sitting on a jury evaluating sexual behavior, inappropriate sexual behavior for someone. What I think is more important, though, or balanced out against that shocking news about Aaliyah that we weren't necessarily expecting to hear today in the testimony, was from another witness confirming about what the processing behavior was. And that's called, in legal terms, the grooming of how he got people to do things that he got them to do, these alleged victims. And that's going to be really important because you're hearing and connecting the dots on the jury about consistent behaviors, consistent rules, and consistent directions that were given out by R. Kelly and his team about what to do. And I know people are still really defensive about him in some communities and in some areas, and they're really judgmental about testimony, and even the testimony today. That defensive approach to hearing this testimony, at least for me, it falls into pretty much three different categories. One, judgment about promiscuity from fans and groupies that were engaged in willingly in behavior, even sexual behavior with R. Kelly because he was a celebrity. Two, that they were lying, but we have to put a pin in them lying because a lot of that lying was part of the package of the rules that they had to follow and the directions that they were given, independently of whether or not they lied to him about their age or not. And then three, the benefits that those folks received. And I'm talking about money, I'm talking about trips, and I'm talking about, in this case, actual work, because she was part of his team and given an opportunity to dance for him and work for him as long as she followed the rules. The bigger issue, though, obviously, is always, what did R. Kelly do and what did his team do? Because they told them to lie. They had them write out these fake narratives against their own family members and friends, and they were told to isolate, and all of these things did isolate them from their family and friends. And then if they didn't follow his rules, they were punished, and they were also, a number of them, exposed to STDs. That's a big thing, but the real issue, as always in this case, is his inappropriate sexual action with them. Again, because it's statutory rape, it is illegal at the time, and that's at the heart of why today's testimony was so important and relevant and connected to what we've heard in the past.
Well, Paul, Angela also testified that Kelly told her that having sex with him was her, quote, paying dues if she wanted a career in the music business. Connect the dots of the significance of that phrase to the elements the prosecution needs to prove of a criminal enterprise.
Sure. Well, all of that goes into the power differentiation that she held when she came into interaction with R. Kelly, right? So as long as he was telling her that in order for her to work for him, in order for her to be associated with him or affiliated with him or to have a career or do anything, that she had to engage in illegal activity. That's it. That's the racketeering. All the prosecution has to show is that there were at least two separate instances where R. Kelly directed or R. Kelly benefited from illegal behavior that he orchestrated. That's the key. So him telling anyone that paying your dues and the paying the dues was illegal or illicit behavior, that's the racketeering charge right there. I think the prosecution has given the jury a plethora of things to choose from that they can choose to believe. And if they are true, again, more than one, it just has to be at least two, then that's the racketeering charge right there. So it's really important that that conversation and that specific directive about paying your dues came from R. Kelly himself, and that's today's testimony. That's why it matters.
Now, Angela said that when she was with Kelly, her mindset was, quote, whatever you do, protect Robert. That's something we've also heard from other accusers. How do you think the defense will use those comments to support their narrative?
Well, they're going to show the prosecution, the defense will use that, you mean, or the prosecution?
Yes. Well, we know what the prosecution's trying to prove, but how do you think the defense would actually turn that to favor their narrative?
Yeah, the defense is going to say that they were protecting R. Kelly because they wanted to protect R. Kelly. He didn't do anything. And now all of a sudden that we are years later and years out, they've all changed their narrative, or there was an absence of a narrative that's just coming out now. And they always had the choice, if they really believed that he was doing something, to have done it before, and they didn't until now, conveniently. So they'll try and undermine the testimony and try and shine the light on the fact that they thought that their job was to be protecting R. Kelly, and now they seem to have changed for whatever reason after they received all of these benefits, and that may undermine whether or not it's true of what they said. I just think that that's a difficult road to climb, given that we've heard over a dozen men and women testifying consistently about R. Kelly's behavior and his team behavior. There was a stronger nugget today from the assistant who has been with him consistently for 15 years.
So we're getting there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We're
Okay,
getting there,
okay, yeah.
Diana, right? Okay, so
Yeah.
earlier in the day, Diana, one of Kelly's assistants who you're referencing, wrapped her testimony up, but she was also labeled by some of the accusers as someone who would do Kelly's dirty work. Today, she said she quit several times, but would come back because she was worried about Kelly's well-being. This was a man, our BSC's Dre Clark actually mentioned it, that had no control over his bank accounts, had trouble reading and writing, didn't even know his own social security number. So here's a woman who, Paul, seemed to care more about Kelly's well-being than those he allegedly abused. Now, wouldn't this make some of her not so favorable testimony for the defense that much more credible to the jury?
Absolutely. I think she is going to be their star witness, or so far, based on the testimony of everyone that I've heard, she has done the most to characterize a defense option for the defense team. And I would put her back on the stand if I were that defense team to get her to articulate that, hey, out of all these dozens of people that you heard were in and out of his life for periods of time that received money from him, that may have been promiscuous by your own standards and definitions, here is someone that was with him for a very large period of time that was consistent in seeing him on the record, off the record, interacting on stage with these people, and she never saw anything. You heard her testify under oath that she never saw inappropriate sexual behavior, and we need to believe the people. And again, she wasn't just a fan of R. Kelly. She quit several times. She was objective. She had her own judgment. She spoke her own mind. And here she's telling you that she never saw any of these things. And if he were running an entire criminal enterprise, wouldn't the person that he paid to be his closest assistant be able to tell you more than what the prosecution is trying to tell you and the story they're trying to sell? That's how I would argue it. And I think I could make a persuasive argument. But again, this is one witness that was paid by R. Kelly for a long period of time against all of the other testimony we heard all of last week and this week as well.
Well, Paul, we expect the defense will begin its presentation this week. If you were consulting with the defense team, who should be their first witness and why?
Well, I wouldn't, but if I were, it would probably be, I would probably put on the witness that we just heard immediately just to remind the jury of what she said and undermine the prosecution's case. I'm really curious, though, before prosecution wraps, whether or not they're even going to put on a psychologist to talk about the mindset of a predator or the mindset of folks that engage in statutory rape. And if they miss that opportunity, that would be one of the first things that I put on is a psychologist to argue against whatever narrative the prosecution is going to make about framing who R. Kelly was as a celebrity, talking about a cultural expert to talk about celebrities get judged differently for engaging in behaviors that might not seem normal to you or I, but for folks that have a big name and a big profile. They're engaged in things that we shouldn't be judgmental about, and it certainly doesn't translate into illegal actions, especially when they're engaging with consensual participants. So that's the direction that I think they are likely to take it, and I don't think they can go anywhere else given the testimony.
All right, veteran prosecutor and legal contributor Paul Henderson, thank you so much for your time, sir.